Let's start with your first hairdresser job. What was that like? After you get out of high school, how do you get to the beauty industry? How did you get here?
Well, just thank God you weren't one of my first clients. I made, I had some gifts, but I also made a lot of discoveries with those gifts. But you know what? When I got out of school, I had good mentors in the school, people who finally saw the value within me and saw that I had full potential. They led me to a cuttery salon. It was called New York Clippers at the time, and we charged about what $2.99 a haircut. But it helped me continue learning and building upon my skills and allowing me to make more discoveries so that I can learn even more. I didn't make discoveries and get in the corner and cry. I just asked more questions. Yeah, I had a pit in my stomach, but I knew that if I just got out of that, scarcity of asking questions and started practicing and doing, especially now that I have this opportunity to work in this industry, I can only grow, you know? So,
Excellent.
yeah.
So now you're in your first salon and you're making discoveries. And I remember driving around and seeing some of your discoveries walking down the street, and I knew they were your haircuts.
Yeah, I
But
can show you how to make hair disappear.
and clients gone.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
that so when you have your breakthrough as an artist, what was it that you said, I can do this job? What drew you in after you go, oh, these hands are magic? And truthfully, to the whole audience listening, I've watched Giulio for most of my career. We've worked side by side with everything from John Paul Mitchell Systems to the Peace Love Happiness charity to what he does down in Florida with the police. He's a gifted man, but your art is something that I think gets overshadowed. And I'd love to touch on one of your defense mechanisms because you're naturally a humorous guy. You're funny as hell. But you told me
That was
one,
my mask for many years.
and I would love you to put that out because you and I used to have pretty deep conversations because we were the workhorses. We would drive from Albany to Poughkeepsie or Binghamton. We'd do a show in a tiny little place. And then we'd get girls who thought they were going to be the next supermodels. They'd go to the hair show, be a hair model. And you would have to stay and do education for salons, and I would have to drive models back to Albany and go, my boyfriend's going to hate my haircut, you know? So it's like, so as we do this journey together, I would love to know, because you said it best once, that you put yourself in a corner because no one took you serious because of your sense of humor, because that
Yeah.
was one of your masks.
Yeah, that was a big struggle, and I had to learn how to use that sense of humor. I had to learn when it was, the right time because everything was a joke. Because I
Yeah.
was insecure. I lived behind a mask. So if you brought up a subject, I was sure I wasn't going to know it. So what I did was just start cutting up jokes and, having fun and diverting the question or the challenge. But not when it came to hair. I mean, I still joke
No.
around when I did hair, but when it came to the art, I really threw myself in. But if you were to, ask me a question and somewhat what I thought at the time was too intelligent for me, I would just, and you were around me, I would just rip a joke. But, you know, I always sought out education. And when I saw Paul Mitchell was just starting in the early 80s, and I was at your distributorship. And I
Yep.
saw Paul Mitchell on stage, and John Paul was with him as well. But he had an energy. I saw me, through
Yeah.
him. And I was like, I can do this, man. I can learn and I can share with other people. I have to be a part of this family. I have to be a part of this culture. And that's how I got involved with the distributor and you. And it was just straight out magic from there on in. And mentorship. Because what I loved about Paul Mitchell is they never looked or devalued me, even if I was a jokester. They would just mentor and help me understand how and when to use that, or how to do things, or they would, correct me when I would speak poor English. And when they didn't laugh. They just like, hey, they saw the value and they just built upon that, which just gave me the drive to keep going. Somebody finally believes in me and knows I'm possible.
So from there to where you make your next jump, your first real big salon, Central Bellizza, right? Was that
Well,
your first big song?
that was the first big one. The first salon started at 21. It was called Giulio's International Hair Designs after I got back from
Oh,
Europe.
that's right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. On
And
Courier
how long did
Road.
we have that one again? When did we? So this is so important because you're a mentor, whether you know it or not. But you have very successful beauty schools with Paul Mitchell. How many are you up to now? 9 or 6? What is the number on that?
It's 6. I kind
Right,
of
good.
dwindled down a
So,
little bit, but yeah.
and I want to touch on that because in the beginning we talked about failure is a huge part of your success, just like John Paul's, just like Steve Jobs. If they don't have the failure, they don't propel next because you can't learn. So if we go back to that salon, that Giulio's first salon, 21, what was it like for you? Because you never owned a business before that. And I think people who watch and respect you never knew this. They just thought, hey, you're good friends with the Paul Mitchell family and you got blessed and you just walked into this and you know John Paul, you know everybody. So this was easy. No, I
No.
think they have to understand how you thought because so many of your kids that you mentor in your school go out to open a business with no clue, but they had the benefit of your wisdom. You had none of that.
No. I just, when I started, I was giving good advice, either keep focusing on fear and don't go anywhere or add faith, because you got to pick one of the two. And I gave faith an acronym, which is a fierce attitude in the heart. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to start living
Say
through
that again
faith.
because you said that kind of fast. I like that.
Yeah,
So
because
faith.
Zig Ziglar always said fear was FEAR, false evidence appearing real. But he said choose faith, but he didn't have an acronym for that. And I'm like, there's got to be one. So FAITH, fierce attitude in the heart, is what I gave it. So
That's
any
beautiful.
yeah. So anything I do, I'm going to
Anyone
do
out
with
there, write
faith.
that down.
So anything I'm going to do, I'm going to do with a faith, with a fierce attitude in the heart, whether it be with my faith in my God or with business. And here I got an opportunity. Somebody says, "Hey, the salon is available for rent. You can start your own business." And I did not know anything about business. I did not know anything. I didn't even know I had to file taxes. So,
No.
but I just jumped in and went. A lot of people said, today a lot of people want to work 9 to 5, but when you open your own business, no, you're working from 6 to midnight or whatever. So I
And
just
you
jumped
still do
in,
that.
and I still do
Yep. Yeah,
that.
you do.
Well,
So
go ahead.
go ahead. I want to hear the rest of this because this is a great story I forgot all about.
Well, it was funny because my mindset was give great customer service, give great services, and offer all the services that you've learned in the beauty industry. My goodness, I used to even do waxing, tanning,
Well, I
you
know why
named
you did waxing.
it. But I never was taught. I was self-taught, and I just jumped in and did what it took because failure was not an option, even though I've hit a lot of failure points when I first opened up. But thank God for mentors. Thank God for my distributorship. Thank God for friends like you who would jump in and say, hey, did you think of this? Did you think of that? Did you do this? Did you do that? Which, once again, I had to learn by tripping and falling. And rather than giving up, I got great advice from mentors like you guys, and I was able to propel forward. But it wasn't easy. I would make money, lose money. I would make clients, lose clients. I mean, I had to sit back and really figure out how to keep within the guardrails, how to keep on that straight path rather than veering off because I'm ADHD, man. I go all over the place, but I
Yeah.
had to learn to bring that in.
We used to have a saying, boys and girls who are watching this podcast, when Giulio he is energy unbridled. So we used to say if we nailed his foot to the floor, he'd walk in a circle.
Pretty much.